Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to cilinixfxcapital. Hope you're all doing great, and welcome to this new video right here on Ethereum. We're going to do a full update. There's some interesting fundamental things or some interesting news that I think we need to talk about regarding ETH beta, right? So the Ethereum ecosystem. We've actually seen some strong momentum over the course of the last 24 hours. So we'll talk about that, and then we'll talk about what to expect, pragmatically, or what to expect practically, I suppose, over the course of the next 24 hours going into the next week. I mean, the next week is quite uncertain. Obviously, on Friday, we ended with the fundamentals not being ideal. We had equities still pulling back. We had the volatility index still being relatively elevated. If you look at the 2-month and 3-month average, which means that there was relatively high unrest in the markets, and you also had the dollar strength index, which is also one of the key reasons why equities were pulling back. You have that bouncing against resistance level, against its major resistance level, trying to break out, which we don't want. All right, we don't want the dollar strength index to break out. So it ended with that, and that is also going to be crucial when we're talking about Ethereum. How will that volatility index open? How will, at the end of today, actually already, because then the pre-market futures open for equities in Asia, how will that open? Can we see some relief? Can we see some recovery? That matters a lot for Ethereum, because Ethereum at this point of time is incredibly reliant on the markets, right? The correlation that Ethereum has at this point of time to Bitcoin is 75%, which is not the highest, but it is still quite high, right? So therefore it matters a lot. But we'll talk about that in this video, and I'll keep you updated on that tomorrow morning. It seems to me like if we're just looking at the technicals for Ethereum right now, we have seen some constructive price action over the course of this weekend. The volume has been pretty good for Bitcoin specifically as well, which matters because of that correlation. I don't like Ethereum being correlated to Bitcoin. I mean, ultimately that means that Ethereum is relatively weak, right? Like every time that Ethereum was incredibly strong over the course of this year, so since May, it was also uncorrelated to Bitcoin. So we don't want it to be correlated to Bitcoin, but it is. So that means that the volume and the constructive bullish price action we've seen for Bitcoin also matters for Ethereum, and ultimately is also good. Now, I do want to point something out right here for Ethereum, and that is that we still have some imbalances right here at 3,790. All the way down to basically 3,740. I think you need to be prepared for a spike down into that level, right? Because of the fundamentals and because of the low liquidity in the weekend, volatility is quite likely. And then if the fundamentals are not amazing, something like this is quite easy to do and quite easy to manipulate. So be prepared for that. But ultimately, because of the constructive price action for Bitcoin, because of the constructive price action for Ethereum specifically, by the way, as well, but that is caused by Bitcoin to a high extent, I'd say, I do think it's most likely that we will be able to move up higher, right? So that means that we're moving into that level right here at 30, let's say 4,000, and potentially afterwards also that level into 4,100, which is the top of the range. Or at least the area. I mean, you can see we have a fair value gap right here at 4,040, which, will probably function as resistance a little bit more. And something else that I wanted to point out here at the end of the video, and something that I think points into the right direction. Like if we look at Ethereum specifically, if we look at network statistics, I don't think that there's anything major that we really could zoom in on and say, okay, that's very bullish. I think the DEX trading volumes are pretty good. I think the TVL is very stable, so that's good. But we have seen some strong momentum for Ethereum beta coins, right? So then we're talking mostly about CK Sync, but there have been some other coins as well that have reacted or have shown some nice price action over the course of the last 24 hours. CK Sync, obviously, after the tweet by Vitalik. But that's a good sign, all right? Momentum for the Ethereum beta ultimately also functions as a bit of momentum and at least a bump in the right direction for the ecosystem. But those are my thoughts on Ethereum for now, going into next week. Hopefully it helps, but for now, thank you for watching. Take care and bye.